Welcome to the podcast. A friend of mine, Dr. Kelly Ward, who is also the chairman of the Arizona GOP. There is a very important issue before us, Kelly, which is the Maricopa audit. Now, as you know, the left has been saying since the election itself, most secure election in American history, no problems whatsoever. The media has been behind this. The digital media has been censoring people who say the opposite. Yet I see today in Rasmussen a poll that says that 51% of Americans believe that there was significant cheating in the 2020 election. So the propaganda isn't going through, but I think the significance, am I right in saying the significance of Maricopa is it's really the first official look to see on the ground what has actually been happening in the election. Talk for a moment about the significance and why this is a big deal. And also, how did Maricopa decide to do this?
Well, this is the first ever full forensic audit of an election in our country's history. And that's why I call it America's audit. That's why everyone should call it America's audit, because the Democrats are trying to put out propaganda saying this is a Republican audit. This is the Republican Senate's audit. This is the Republican Party's audit. No, this is America's audit. And it's funny because you say they claim that this is the most secure election that we've ever had. But as soon as this audit began, the Democrats and the left and the progressives and the globalists sent 73 lawyers to Arizona to try to stop this process. This process is brought on by the Arizona State Senate. Our legislators are very strong. They understand the power of the legislature. They understand the power of the states. They subpoenaed this information from Maricopa County, and now we are trying to continue the pressure to force Maricopa County to deliver all of the information we need to get the answers that we want to restore election integrity and voter confidence.
Let's start by talking about the immediate sort of attempts to block the audit. You said the Democrats and the left sent in this army of lawyers. Isn't it true that at the same time the Biden administration sent a sort of threatening letter, which at least in part, for the part of it I saw, said something like, if you contact voters at their home address, this is a form of voter intimidation. I mean, the election's over, but they seem to suggest, well, you're intimidating them for the next time around just by verifying that they live at that address. Right. So talk about, first of all, talk about what the Biden people are trying to do. And then second, has this scared off to any degree the auditors or the Arizona legislature?
Right. Yes, you are exactly right. So our Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, tried to bring in the federal government, bring in the very politicized DOJ, the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, into Arizona, which I think is unconstitutional, and probably you do too, because they have no place, number one, in our elections, but number two, in an audit of the elections. There's just nowhere for them. So they sent a letter stating that they were asking some questions based on news reports and complaints that they had received. Now, the news reports in Arizona have also been the local news, basically complete fake news, trying to create the story rather than report the story. So the DOJ sent a letter asking about two things: the security of the ballots and whether there was voter intimidation happening. Now, neither of those things are happening. The ballots are secure. There are 19 armed guards that are on site every single day, along with 24-hour security cameras and 9 cameras that are open to the public to watch this audit as it happens. And there is no voter intimidation. This is not an election. This is an audit. And isn't it strange that they don't want us to know if not only do those people live at that address, but do those people exist at all? Are they still living? I personally want to suppress the dead vote. So I hope everybody out there wants to suppress the dead vote.
Now, we've also learned, and I see some of this in a letter that was written by the Arizona Senate president, that right away there has been a discovery of certain very disturbing irregularities. Let's start going through those one by one. Let's start by talking about passwords and routers. Is it in fact the case that the Maricopa County, the people running this election, did not, in fact, have the passwords themselves, that the only people who had the passwords were I guess the Dominion company or the companies administering these machines, and that the election officials did not have them at all.
That is that is what is claimed. And so in the subpoena from the state Senate that was approved of by the Arizona courts, the information, the routers, the diagrams of the routers and the passwords were supposed to be provided to the company that has been hired by the Arizona Senate to do this audit. So during the court hearings, they didn't ever bring up that they didn't have the passwords. They didn't ever bring up that they didn't plan to give the routers to the state Senate. That came weeks, if not months, after it was determined that this is an appropriate way to fix our elections. So Maricopa County claims that they have only the initial password to get into the Dominion machines, that the secondary password, so the second door that you need to be able to get in to certify and make sure that everything is up to par and that there wasn't any funny business, they claim they don't have that. And as far as I know, right as of now, Dominion is not offering that up to the Arizona State Senate and the auditors to get inside those machines. But hopefully we will.
Is the Senate kind of determined to push the process to make sure they do have that access, so they're not backing down on this, are they?
They are not backing down, which I'm very proud of them because politicians, I know politicians, it's much easier to go retreat, hide, wait till the next election and go back into office. These people, Senate President Karen Fann, the chairman of the Judiciary, Warren Peterson, my own state senator, Sonny Borelli, they are out there, they are pushing, they are fighting, and they've all, as more information appears to be hidden from them, and as more information is coming to light, they are even more determined to get this done. Many of them have said that if there's a political hill to die on, it is this one. This is the one, because this is our republic. This is what makes our country great, is the faith in the election system. So they're surging ahead.
When we come back, I want to talk to Kelli Ward about the implications of all this, also about allegedly missing databases, and also what happens if it turns out that Maricopa County did not vote as the results said that it did. Wouldn't that tip the state of Arizona, and what would that mean for the election in general? We'll be right back. I've warned you before about home title theft, where cyber thieves remove you from your home's title and become the owner. I said you better get Home Title Lock because it's coming. Well, if you're on Facebook, that big breach is here. Facebook had 500 million accounts exposed to cyber thieves. And according to a retired FBI cybercrime expert, everything thieves need to take over as the new owner of your home was leaked. Name, address, personal information, it's out. The thief forges your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you sold your home to him. He'll leave you in debt or even have you evicted. Do what I did and protect your home's title with Home Title Lock. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. Then sign up for 30 free days of protection during this high-risk breach. Again, go to HometitleLock.com and use promo code RADIO. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code RADIO. I'm back with Kelli Ward, the chairman of the Arizona GOP. We're talking about the Maricopa County election audit. Kelli, is there any merit? The sheriff, Paul Penzone, has put out this statement in effect saying we can't turn over this data to the Arizona legislature because it contains highly sensitive law enforcement information. First of all, what on earth does law enforcement information have to do with voter information? Why are those two things allegedly being commingled? What is this guy even up to?
Right. Well, Paul Penzone is the sheriff in Maricopa County. He was supported by George Soros. He is a leftist. And the things that he's saying, I hope that he does get called to say them under oath, because I do think that there's some stretching of the truth there. This is in regard to the routers. And he and Maricopa County, the attorneys for Maricopa County, are claiming that law enforcement data is stored on the routers, that social security numbers, also maybe sensitive medical information is stored on those routers as well. And I had to look up about routers, and I had to talk to a lot of tech experts to find out really the truth about this, because routers are designed to be fast, to quickly move packets of information from one place to another. And only a very novice IT person would store that kind of data on a router in general, let alone on a router that belongs to the elections part of the county. The county has a very complex, very large database. It's a huge, and this information should not be on those routers. And for me as a physician, I can tell you if medical information is stored there, then perhaps Maricopa County needs to self-report some HIPAA violations and get that fixed, because the election routers should be stored separately after the elections are over, and they should be secured, not being used in day-to-day operations of the county.
Now, in this letter that Arizona Senate President Karen Fann has sent, she refers to the fact that there was apparently a whole database, seemingly a significant one, illegally deleted after the subpoena was issued to produce this information. Now, my question is that true? Who deleted it, and what's on that database?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out, Dinesh. Exactly that. So Karen Fann, the Senate president, has invited the county to a meeting that's going to be live streamed on May 18th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Arizona time, so that they can explain this, because it's the election management system. It's a database within that. There is one large computer and then multiple client computers that feed into that. The client computers all reference the vote and tally database, which is basically the vote and tally of the 2020 election. However, that database is not found on the mainframe of the system. We don't know who may have deleted it. We don't know if there's a backup that is readily available from Maricopa County. I was informed this morning that there is an outside entity that has access to that file, and that may be the only file that exists that includes that original voted, not voter, but voted database. So there's a lot of questions. I hope we get a lot of answers.
Now, we're waiting to know a lot of things, but let's just start with what we do know, and let's just start with the obstacles that we've seen in Maricopa and the problems with this audit. Doesn't that, on the face of it, tell you that we need to have similar audits in Michigan, in Wisconsin, perhaps in Minnesota, certainly in Pennsylvania, that there's enough smoke to tell you that shenanigans were afoot? And this needs at the very least to be looked at. Whenever I keep hearing this has all been looked at, I say, looked at by whom? Looked at when? Looked at where? Adjudicated exactly by whom on the merits? So isn't the significance of Maricopa enlarged by the fact that it's sending a message to other states that they need to look at their returns?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I think we should look at all of our counties in Arizona. We only have 15 counties, but even the counties that went for President Trump, we should be looking at every single one of those. And all of the states that you mentioned, as well as Georgia, as well as Nevada, maybe all 50 states need to be looking at their elections. Certainly the states that utilize Dominion products for their elections, they need to be looking. But with Maricopa County, there are so many things. They're refusing to comply with the subpoena from the legislative body, the Arizona Senate, the way that they have stored the ballots and the way that the paper ballots, because in Arizona, we do have paper ballots as a backup. And thank goodness we're able to look at them through this subpoena. But those ballots were stored in containers that have the seals broken already. There are more listed as digital ballots than actually exist as paper ballots. There are huge problems there. And then all of the digital problems that we're seeing with the database deletions, et cetera. We've got to get to the bottom of it. I hope we are the first domino to fall. I'm glad we are the tip of the spear. We've got fighters here, me as the chairman, but also we've got Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar on the federal side. And then we've got our state legislature who is staying strong. And I hope that we shore up and empower other states to want to do the exact same thing that we're doing here in Arizona, in Maricopa County.
Let me follow a thought experiment, Kelly. Let's just say that the Arizona audit reveals that Maricopa County, which is the county that delivered the state for Biden, tips to Trump. or subtracts enough invalid votes that Trump wins the state of Arizona, what happens? Does Arizona then declare that Trump is the winner? Follow the process out. What happens if the audit reveals that Trump won Arizona?
Right. And remember, in Arizona, the margin is razor thin, 0.3%, just a little over 10,000 votes separating those two candidates. So the likelihood of finding something is very, very high. And I think that's why the Democrats are panicking, why they're in a frenzy. So these are unprecedented times, but they're going to call for unprecedented solutions, in my opinion. One potential is for the Republican Party of Arizona, because our electors will have been disenfranchised. We will have been harmed, is to take that to court, to say the true electors are not the ones that signed the paper originally, that we need to install ours. We may have, I'm not sure that the legislature will have the power to do anything themselves other than to change law for future. But the certifying bodies, those counties, and even the Secretary of State could be forced to decertify what they previously certified. Because, and President Trump has said this to me directly, if you go to Tiffany's and you steal the diamonds, and then you're found out that you stole them 2 weeks from now, 2 years from now, 20 years from now, you still have to return the diamonds and you have to pay the price. You have to pay the consequences. So I think it's not known. We can't have an illegitimate president that is seated. It's bad for us internally in our country. It's bad for us, obviously, with our enemies around the world and with our status around the world. So this has to be corrected for 2020 and going forward into perpetuity.
Here's a statement by Trump just came out, in which he talks about the fact that the media is trying to avoid covering this big story. And he says they don't want people to see that what we've really had in America is, quote, a corrupt third world election. And I think the significance of Maricopa County is it's one of the first steps in trying to show or to examine whether or not President Trump was or is right. Hey, thanks, Kelly. I really appreciate your coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Dinesh. It's great to be with you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Debbie and I have gotten to know Dr. Douglas Howard, who founded the company Balance of Nature. What a remarkable guy. He convinced us we're not eating enough fruits and veggies, even though we thought we were. You don't need to eat